Hi, guys. Welcome to another episode of Informally God. Today, I would like to talk about listening to others. Now, listening to others, I want to talk about it in the context of, for example, listening to your wife doesn't mean obeying your wife. Just because you listen to what your wife has to say doesn't mean that you have to obey what she says. So listening to others, what I've realized is that the longer I've walked with God, and the further I walk with God, the narrower the road becomes, and the less compromising the truths become. I consider people in the Bible, men in the Bible, and even my own personal experience. I wonder, when God told Abraham, to take a knife to his son, who you think Abraham could have called up somebody to get some advice about that? When God gave Joseph the revelation of ruling over Egypt one day, do you think it didn't go over so well with his family when he told them that, and when he quote unquote consulted with them about that? And I say all that to say that there's going to be a point where you're going to have to stop listening to other people, because God is going to reveal things to you. God may have you do things. God may have you be about something that is not going to make sense to a senseless world. It's not going to make sense to blind people. He's going to give you spiritual directions that can only be understood in the context of the spiritual, that can only be considered in the context of him. I remember very early on in my journey when I went homeless, and I think it was the day before the constable was supposed to come, and I called Jesse Lee Peterson, and I left a message on his voicemail. I didn't know if I was going to get a call back or not, because, I was calling at the last minute, and I left a voice message saying something to the effect of, I don't have any money. I would appreciate if Jesse called me back. Here's my number. And sure enough, he called me, I think the night before I went homeless, or the constable came. And, I said to him, I can't talk to anybody else. I don't know anybody else who has this kind of faith. And he said, yes, I understand. And even as I was talking to him on the phone, it didn't really provide me any peace. I realized that. I think I realized that at the time, and I certainly realize that now. God has continuously shown up in my life to snatch and grab anything that I made an attempt to snatch and grab in order to save me. It's this false and fake salvation that happens on a reoccurring basis when we live from a false source. A false source, the devil, who influences us to do the wrong thing, and then once we're in the middle of that darkness, he then influences us to take other measures in order to correct that initial darkness. But what he's doing is he's just bringing you further into the darkness, because the influence is wrong, and the consulting of this false influence just continues to breed this falseness. If the devil has you, punch somebody in the face, but then you seek relief, from that consequence, he'll influence you to do drugs, or he'll influence you to, find somebody who agrees with what you did, or it's always this false influence. And so many times in my life, it's just like, I'm running to this door, slam. I'm running into this door, slam. And it's going to happen, that these things spiritually are happening so that you can enter in, so that you cannot rely on anything on the outside to save you. You must now contend face to face with your Father. He is the only thing that can save you. He is the only thing that is going to be able to save you. Now, this is a very hard thing it was hard for me to get a hold of, obviously, because I remember when I began my journey, I had a lot of questions, of course. I had a lot of questions about things like homosexuality. I had a lot of questions about quote unquote Christian things. And I was going around, this was my own discovery. I was discovering for myself, going around and asking people questions, and realizing basically that they didn't know what they were talking about either. And I remember when I first began, I had all these questions about homosexuality. Now, my stance before I surrendered to God was really no stance. Homosexuality was not really relevant to me in any kind of way. I had family members who identified with homosexuality, but it's something deep inside of me that knew that it was wrong. It was a rejection of it, but I did not judge it in anger at the same time. And that's exactly where that's exactly even before I came into God, that was exactly the right, that was the right way to be. But when I surrendered to God, I started questioning, whether I should believe a certain way or whether I should think a certain way. And I was asking people all these questions about homosexuality, especially people who identify themselves as Christians. And I was just like, what? Well, I asked one guy and I said, is homosexuality wrong? And he said, yes. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, because the Bible says. And I was totally confused because I was saying, but yeah, what do you, how do you know this truth yourself? How do you know this instead of just copying and pasting what's in a book? How do you know for yourself that this is wrong? And he couldn't answer the question, because for me, this is not going to cut it. I didn't grow up reading the Bible. I didn't grow up with stories of Jesus Christ. So, telling me to read a Bible and giving me stories is not going to work. There's no point of reference for me in terms of this. This is why God cannot be pinpointed in a Bible. He cannot be pinpointed. He is so much more than a book. He's so much more than religion. He's more than that. And I remember asking a lady, she was an older lady, what she thought, her thoughts, because she was seeking, and she was all messed up. She was older, so she remembers a time, she was brought up to believe that it was wrong. And in her, I saw that that scary up and down swinging pendulum of the world, that mind of Satan, that 1 minute it believes this, 1 minute it believes that, 1 minute it believes this, and 1 minute it believes that. And she, now was totally confused because, of course, the culture is, it's something different now than what it was in, when she was growing up. So now she doesn't know what to think because it's everywhere. And she doesn't know whether it's right. She doesn't know whether it's wrong. And she's all, messed up and discombobulated. And I realized that I was on my own, really. and that my own only point of reference was God at this stage in the game, which was very confusing to me because I don't really have a relationship with God. It's budding. So how am I supposed to have a point of, how am I supposed to listen to you when I don't really know you like that? And my only point of reference all my life is listening to other people. And this is part of the walk too. This is a part of walking and growing and overcoming the confusion, asking questions. And I asked God, and he showed me. There will come a point where God, of course, the spiritual, you're not going to be able to ask anybody about what you're going through, because if you understand spiritually that the world is lost, then you're going to be looking toward the world really for this lostness. This is the only thing that they can give back to you, is the wrongness that's within themselves. And so there will be a point where God will give you instructions to do something. He will give you a desire for something that is not going to be understandable to the outside world at all, because you are entering spiritually. And what makes sense and complete sense in the spiritual sometimes looks completely wonky in the physical, just like everything that we experience in the physical is totally wrong in the spiritual. And so this is really the biggest point that I wanted to make about listening to others. Everything has become quote unquote YouTube nowadays. And I mean that everything is you. Everything is according to the quote unquote truth of another human being. And this is what happens when, there's no God. Everybody becomes their own separate God. Everybody has all these answers about life, of course, because they're incentivized now by money. And but all they are is wrong a lot of the time, because their only source is that wrongness that's within themselves. And so it's disorienting, but listening, to other people doesn't necessarily mean that you have to obey what they're saying. It's just, you give consideration to it, but that's not your source. At the end of the day, you are not obedient to human beings. You are not obedient to, you're not obedient to that. We were created by God to be in obedience to our Creator. And our creators are not human beings. Our creators are not moms and dads. They're the vessels through which we are created, but we seek, listening to our Father at the end of the day. And it's something that you have to keep working at in order to come to, it's something that you have to keep working at, but I promise that it'll work itself out, even though it doesn't seem like it. I remember at the very beginning, when I first surrendered to God, I was in the car with a lady, and I was talking about my experiences, and I was in the middle of the eviction, and I was saying all these things, and she was giving me her feedback, and without even realizing it, I didn't realize as she was driving that my hand was like going closer and closer to the car door handle. It was almost as if like I just looked and it was there. It was as if any moment I was going to open the car door and just fling myself out into the street while the car was moving, because I just couldn't take it anymore. She was saying things like, and she wasn't really doing anything. It was all this that I was contending with internally. Where I am, it's like, it's just God. All I'm trying to, I'm laser focused on God right now. So if you say anything that throws me off track, if you say purple, if you say green, if you say anything that throws me off of that God track, I'm gonna totally lose it. I'm gonna have a nervous breakdown. So it's like I'm hanging on to the car door for dear life, and she's saying things like, oh, well, it couldn't be me, because I would be so afraid and I don't know how you're doing this. And do you have a plan? I hope you have a plan. And I was just like, holy crap. Like, I'm already dealing with all this crap on the inside of me, trying to overcome the devil inside of me. And it's coming from the outside now. And, this is why I was going to fling myself from the car unknowingly, because I couldn't take it, and this is real time what it's like, being in the world and not being of it. But coming to the realization, that even though this lady was coming from maybe a well-intentioned place, that's all she knows how to do, that's all she knows how to be, really being able to listen to what she's saying and realizing that everything that she's saying is just a reflection of her. It's just a reflection of her darkness. It's a reflection of the darkness that she's a slave to, a fear that she's in obedience to, a devil that she's in obedience to. And then that devil playing a trick on her in her mind, and that's what she plays out in her life. And so because the devil plays a game on her in her mind, she plays that on other people unknowingly, and tries to impose what's going on inside of her onto other people. And that's basically what human beings do. It's not really social. That's kind of like the evil socialization of human beings. The imposition, of the wrongness inside of yourself onto someone else. And it hurts, like trying to pet a cat too hard or something like that. No, that advice, please don't say that to me. You really should be afraid, but I'm not afraid. But you should be afraid, but I'm not afraid. Are you afraid? Well, now I am, because you just try, for the past 15 minutes, you've been trying to convince me and trying to put that on me. So there's going to be a point, like I said, where even my conversation with Jesse Lee Peterson, it's just like, he's still not God. This is still not going to cut it. I'm still going to, I can't, create any more shortcuts. He's already given me the truth by which to turn around to see my father. But now I have to go with my father. Now I have to, learn how to listen to my father. And, even like I said, he couldn't soothe me because, and I remember him saying during the conversation, like, how does it feel knowing that, like, you believe in God or something like that and you have to call me or something? And it's valid. I mean, I wanted to punch his head in, but it's just like, it's valid. Because, if I believe in God, I have to believe in him. I have to turn toward my father. It's hard because all my life I've been told to listen to other people because I don't have my father, because I've been, recreated in the image of other evil human beings instead of the image of my father. And so now I'm being told that I have to listen to my father, but I have no reference point for my father. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be listening to. But I am, I am praying, I am being silent, throughout all of this. And I think that's all I really have to say about listening to others. Consider it, don't attach to it. Our goal in walking with God is to come into in obedience to our Father and listening to our Father. And one of the ways is that he's going to bring this about is making the world drop away from us. We're going to have to stop listening to the world because the world is at odds with God and what he will have us do. You look at a lot of the figures, in the Bible and look at what God had them do. It's like with Hosea and Gomer, when God told Hosea to marry a prostitute, how do you think that would have went over with people if he had called them up and asked for advice about that? What are you doing? Were you marrying a prostitute? That's horrible. That's not the thing to do, but that's not the command. The command is from your father. It's not from the human being. So this is what's going to have to be reconciled. And on that note, I will talk to you guys in another episode of Informally God soon. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.